twin convinced everyone I was the slow one my whole life until I became the most important person at his wedding. Growing up, Jessica never let me forget I was born 4 minutes after her with complications during delivery. Oxygen deprivation explains everything, she'd say whenever I struggled with math. She'd make me read aloud in front of her friends to show how I stumbled over words. See, half her brain never developed properly. Mom stopped defending me after parent-teacher conferences confirmed I had learning disabilities. Dad couldn't look at me without disappointment. I wondered if I was really broken or just wired differently. When I was 17, our neighbor Mr. Santos moved in with his blind son Carlos. I watched them navigate the world together, Carlos using his cane with such confidence and independence. Carlos looked so isolated at neighborhood gatherings, sitting alone while everyone chatted around him. That's when I knew what I needed to learn. I started studying Braille at the library after school. The librarian thought I was doing research for classes, but I was teaching myself to read with my fingertips. I practiced in my bedroom until my fingers were sore. I found support groups for families with visually impaired members and told Mom I was at study sessions. Jessica was too busy being valedictorian to notice. She'd leave her college acceptance letters on my desk with notes saying, maybe trade school has programs for people like you. When she started dating Michael, it got worse. He was pre-law at Yale, and Jessica loved introducing me as my sister who's still working on basic reading comprehension. They'd discuss their brilliant futures while I sat there silent. Don't worry, Michael would say with kindness. Not everyone needs to be academically gifted. What hurt most was how Jessica would explain my quietness to people. She processes information differently. Give her extra time. Even teachers started treating me like I was fragile, but I kept practicing Braille every night. I learned about visual impairment advocacy, studied assistive technologies, memorized resources for the blind community. The support groups embraced me in ways my own sister never did. They didn't care that I mixed up numbers sometimes or that reading took me longer. 4 years passed like this. Jessica got engaged to Michael right after law school graduation. The wedding would be massive. All their accomplished friends, Michael's judge parents, our entire extended family. Jessica made me a bridesmaid, probably just for appearances. Just don't trip walking down the aisle, she joked at the rehearsal dinner. Actually, maybe I should put you in the back row. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. Then Michael's grandfather arrived from Oregon. Robert was 85, completely blind since childhood, and had never seen a wedding ceremony. Michael's family had arranged for audio description services, but the provider canceled last minute due to illness. The wedding was tomorrow. Jessica was stressed. Michael brushed it off. He can listen. He'll figure out what's happening. His grandfather had traveled across the country for this. Michael mentioned that Robert hadn't attended family weddings in decades because he could never follow along with the visual elements. The next morning, I put on my bridesmaid dress and made a decision. As the ceremony began, I stepped out of the wedding party lineup and walked to where Robert sat. Jessica looked confused. Michael looked horrified. I leaned down and whispered to Robert, "Would you like me to describe everything happening?" His face lit up. He nodded eagerly, tears already forming. I sat beside him and began quietly describing every detail. The flower arrangements, the way Jessica looked in her dress, Michael's nervous expression, every gesture that made the crowd smile. Robert smiled too. When Jessica walked down the aisle, I described her bouquet, her veil, the way our father's face glowed with pride. Robert listened like I was painting him a masterpiece he'd waited decades to see. During Michael's vows about building a future together, Robert grabbed my hand and whispered, "You're giving me my grandson's wedding." Thank you. The entire congregation had noticed us. Jessica stood frozen at the altar. When the officiant pronounced them married, Robert stood and spoke about love transcending what we can see. I helped him voice his message about how marriage is two souls recognizing each other in any language. Jessica started crying. She left Michael standing there and came to hug her new grandfather-in-law, then me. At the reception, Robert insisted I sit at his table. He shared story after story about Michael's childhood, and I helped him connect with Michael's parents, who'd struggled to include him in family conversations for years. The whole reception gathered around our table to hear his stories. Robert turned to me later. "Michael's new wife, she's your sister?" I nodded. "You're nothing alike," he continued. "You see people's hearts. She only sees achievements." Jessica found me later by the wedding cake. "I didn't know you could do that," she said quietly. "There's a lot you don't know about me," I replied, "because you never bothered to ask. You just assumed." She started to speak, then stopped. For once, Jessica had no comeback. "Robert says you're the first person in years who made him feel truly included," Michael said, joining us. Jessica watched her new husband look at me with respect she'd never seen directed anywhere but toward herself.